All right, good morning. I open up the San Diego County Board of Commissioners formal session on August 21st at 10 a.m. Commissioner Sarah, you want to lead us in the flag salute?
Flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. Brings us to our calendar session. Oh, before we get going, if you guys have any public comments for the public hearing coming up, they're the green cards, fill one out and hand it to Bailey. Calendar session, is any updates or changes that you guys need to make? Nope. Public comment, if there's any public comment on a non-agenda item, go ahead and fill out the tan card or go ahead and raise your hand now. If you're online, raise your virtual hand. This is for the non-public hearing also. This is just regular session. Seeing none, moving on. E is department updates. There is none. F is our work session. There is none. Yeah.
Some work session, potential scheduling and topics. Do you want to just do that next week, or do you want me to? I only have 3 items so far to schedule for a work session. So do we want to talk about that now, or do you want me to come back next week?
Depends what they are. Are they going to get long-winded, do you think, or?
No, I mean, this is
Okay, let's
not to get into necessarily what's being discussed. It's just
Okay,
picking some dates and putting some dates on. So
let's get her done now.
okay. So one is the easy one. It's the budget kickoff, the discretionary allocation discussion. I already have that one penciled in for December 11th. We always do that in December.
Okay.
So the second one, and you know about this dog control discussion. And so the question is how soon do you want to look at dates in September or October?
Okay.
There's no session on September 4th. And so the next options are September 11th or September 18th.
Oh, I gotta back up a little bit here. There we go, right there. I'm good on the 11th or the 18th. So you want to shoot for the 11th for dog control? Okay.
Okay. We'll put the 11th on, and then I'll connect with the sheriff. And if for some reason there's a conflict for him, maybe we'll adjust it to the 18th if he's not available.
Okay.
Okay. And then the last one that I had on my list was coming back transit fares discussion.
Ooh, let's get on that one very soon. Let's just do that one the week after on the 18th,
The 18th.
if you guys are good with that.
Yes.
If Cynthia's prepared for it,
Right.
because we really should start
Yeah.
making sure we.
I figured
Get
at least get a date on the calendar, some deadlines, so then we
Absolutely.
can kind of prepare for it, and then we can adjust as necessary.
Yep. Cool.
And those were the 3 items that I had. And so I was just going to open it up. If the commissioners, if you have any other topics that I didn't have on my list or anything we should look at. It's completely up to the board.
Yep. I'm good. I mean, it doesn't keep us from, we should always be trying to put something on the work session anyway. So.
Okay, we'll get the work session schedule updated, and we'll also be starting to resume department updates. We usually do a brush of them early in the year, then we have a little bit of a break, and then we pick up again for this latter part of the calendar year. So those are going to start picking up again as well.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, moving on. G is the consent agenda. We have some surplus items and some minutes on there. I would make a motion for approval. Is there any further discussion?
None.
None. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. H is old business. There's none. I is other business. I1 is consideration of a letter in recognition to Delphian School's 50th anniversary.
I would move approval, Chair.
Motion's been made. Any further discussion?
None.
None. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. I2 is consideration of approval of a grant agreement number 35867 between Yamhill County Transit and the Oregon Department of Transportation, Public Transportation Division for STIF formula funds in the amount of $5,480,675.30, effective upon full execution through June 30, 2027, to authorize staff to finalize the agreement and to rescind Board Order 25-235.
This is a housekeeping action to rescind the old board or the old agreement with ODOT and to authorize this new one. So I would move approval.
Which changed on it? Was it just the dollar amount?
With language changes.
Okay.
Small language changes about repayment of
We agreed.
spent funds.
Yeah, we talked about this in January to
Perfect.
approve the stiff funds, and this is to just clean it up.
Okay, motion's been made. Any further discussion?
None.
None? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Starrett, did you get an aye in there? Okay.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to I3, consideration of approval of grant agreement 35825 between Yamhill County Transit and the Oregon Department of Transportation, Public Transportation Division for federal 5311 operating funds in the not to exceed amount of $1,751,373 with a $396,559 match and total project costs of $2,147,932 effective upon full execution through June 30, 2027, and to authorize staff to finalize the agreement.
I would move approval.
Motion's been made. Any further discussion? None? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. I4, consideration of approval amendment number 2 to agreement number 170700 between Yamhill County and the Oregon Health Authority for Environmental Health Services, Board Order 21-469, updating licensing fee agreement term dates retroactive to June 30th, 2025.
Chair, I would move approval.
Motion's been made. Any further discussion?
None.
None? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to I5, consideration of approval of amendment number 12 to agreement number 026028 between Yamhill County Health and Human Services and the Oregon Health Authority, Board Order 24-067 in the amount of $2,140,328.76, retroactive to July 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025.
Chair, I just want to make a note here. We've had some discussion and a variety of states throughout, counties throughout the state have pushed back on OHA and some of these agreements. So this is not to change any of it or go along with what OHA is asking. This is simply to extend the current agreement until the 31st. And there is hope that there would be some movement on OHA's part. But I believe, Christian, that you're having a meeting with county.
Yeah, there is
councils on the
another
11th?
meeting scheduled with OHA on September 11th. There hasn't been a lot of movement, but we're hopeful that perhaps something positive will come out of that meeting. But yeah, this is simply to extend the existing agreement through December 31st while we try and negotiate the terms that are still in dispute for the new agreement going forward.
All right.
So I'd move approval.
Motion's been made. Any further discussion?
None.
None?
Thanks.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. I6 is consideration of approval to submit an application for funding from the Oregon Department of Veteran Services in the amount of $141,509 for the 2025-2026 fiscal year.
Chair, I just want to make a note here that the county does take almost $300,000 from the general fund to give to veterans. And we're looking at what other counties are doing, but I always appreciate the fact that the county's been so generous with these funds to veterans. So I'd move approval.
Motion's been made. Any further discussion?
Same.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item I7 is consideration to authorize Lindsay Manfrin or designee on behalf of Yamhill County Health and Human Services to submit an application for funding from Spirit Mountain Community Fund in the amount of $7,500.
Just a little bit about this money would go for the Suicide Prevention Coalition, which is a new effort to get a variety of nonprofits and social service agencies, public health, looking at a way to have a little bit more teeth in the fight against suicide. So I would move approval.
Motion's been made. Any further discussion?
None.
None? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item I8, consideration of approval of a contract between Yamhill County and DataWorks Plus LLC for the purchase of 3 fingerprint machines in the total amount of $115,333.23, effective upon full execution with annual automatic renewals unless otherwise terminated.
This is the one where our current providers aren't working with the state anymore. So we've had to find a new contractor to service these machines or to provide new machines and the software that goes with them and storage and all those. So I would move approval.
Motion's been made. Any further questions?
None?
None? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. That brings us to J, public hearings. Again, if you guys have comments for a public hearing, fill out the green comment cards and hand them to Bailey. Yep. Okay. So I'm going to open up the public hearing at 10:12 on August 21st. I need to call for any abstentions by members of the board. Is there any abstentions?
None.
I know the applicant, I've been done a little bit of business with them in the past. I've been to this farm stand, not since I've been commissioner, or at least one of them anyway. But none of this should have influence over my decision today.
Okay, I'm going to announce a potential conflict of interest. It's just very weird how this came about, but it was last night at the City of Carlton County City Dinner, and it was a random raffle that I won, and the raffle item was items from the ground and source. So very just off the wall. It is not going to affect my vote one way or the other. Any other?
Did you have any of that beef jerky yet though?
No, I did not. All right. Number 3, we're going to ask the parties if there's any objections to the jurisdiction of this board to hear the matter before it. Seeing none. Does any board member need to announce and state on the record the substance of any ex parte contact?
No.
Seeing none. All right, Lance, it's on to you
I
reading the
think maybe
statement.
just to that note, I'd reiterate that I have been to this farm stand before, but not as commissioner and not as for this land use hearing.
Okay. Reading of the statements required by law to open the quasi judicial land use hearing.
Oregon law requires that persons who attend a land use hearing be advised of certain rights and duties. First, with regard to the standards for approval, state law, ORS 197.797, requires that we list the applicable substantive criteria that must be met in order for the county to approve an application. The standards will be listed by the county planner in a moment as part of the staff report. Testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed towards the standards for approval. Second, the raise it or waive it rule. Under Oregon law, any issue that might be raised in an appeal of the county's decision in this matter must be raised before the record of this hearing is closed. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision makers and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the board based on that issue. Third, and this is directed to the applicant, under ORS 197.796, failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval, again with sufficient specificity to allow the county to respond to the issue, precludes an action for damages in circuit court.
All right, thanks for that. Lance, you want to give us a staff report?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will, because these dockets were combined in the initial land use hearing and have been combined throughout the land use process, I'll kind of read them in succession. So regarding docket C-14-23, the lot is subject of docket C-1423 is located at 15713 Highway 47, approximately 1,000 feet south of Yam Hill. An approved farm stand has been operating on this property since approximately 2007, dating back to the prior owners of the property when the farm stand was being operated as Cuckoo Lawn Farms and Meadery. The surrounding parcels are all located within the EF80 zone. Land use in the area consists predominantly of larger agricultural operations, including nut orchards, grass seed and alfalfa, hay, cultivation, and livestock pasturage. Regarding docket C-1523, the subject property is located at 15250 Northwest Panther Creek Road. The farm stand located on this property was approved for operation in June of 2023. The subject parcel is split zoned with the majority of the property located in the EF80 zone and a small portion within the AF20 zone. The farm stand itself, the location of the farm stand was approved in the EF80 zone section of the subject lot. Land use in the surrounding area for this particular farm stand runs the gamut of residential, some small farm uses, agricultural uses, and forest uses, which are predominantly passive. Many of the lots in the surrounding area have composed of residential uses with some small hobby farming activities, with a few larger commercial activity agricultural uses present, including grass seed cultivation and cattle grazing. Since this is a remand hearing from the Land Use Board of Appeals, only a single issue is the subject of the hearing. These two dockets are requesting the sale of locally produced wine, cider, beer, and other malt beverages at the existing farm stands. These requests were submitted as a commercial activity in conjunction with farm use, which is a conditional use. These farm stands are being operated by the same owner, which is why these requests were submitted at or nearly the same time in 2023. In both cases, LUBA reviewed the findings and found in favor of the applicant on all but one issue. The subject of this remand hearing is to assure that the sale of fermented beverages at the farm stands, quote, will be a secondary use that is in conjunction with the primary use on the property, end quote. In the remand from LUBA, it was identified that the county must adopt findings or conditions to address this issue. Since this is a remand hearing, testimony, arguments, or evidence should only be accepted when it addresses the issues identified by LUBA, and this limit on testimony was identified in the public notice sent to interested parties. By definition, a primary use must be more than 50%, and a secondary use must be less than 50%. Farm use on the subject lots include more than just the sale of farm products at the farm stands, and the applicant has asserted that their farm operation encompasses approximately 440 acres in the local agricultural community and is home to over 80 cattle, 75 pigs, 1,000 chickens, 500 ducks, 200 turkeys, 17 acres of vineyard, and 150 species of veggies and edible flowers. The farm stands are currently selling pork, poultry, lamb, and fresh vegetables, and the applicant requested to add wine tasting service and the sale of locally produced wine, beer, cider, and other malt beverages as a commercial activity in conjunction with farm use on both farm stands. As it relates to the local area, staff uses the definition of local agricultural area provided in OAR 660-033-130 sub D, which in this case specifies Oregon as a local area. And that concludes the staff report.
Thank you. And that brings us to the applicant's case. Good morning. Name and address, please.
Mark Hoyt, Sherman, Johnny and Hoyt, 693 Chemeketa Street Northeast, Salem, Oregon, 97301, here on behalf of the applicants. Also here with me today, should you desire any additional background or information regarding the operations at issue, is Mackenzie Rosenberry, one of the lead executives that is part of the operation of this farm. Thank you for the staff report. Commissioners, thank you for being here today. Thank you for being here when this matter came back from LUBA. I want to emphasize what the staff noted, and that is that we're here on a very narrow issue, and that is the scope of sale of I'm just going to refer to them as alcoholic beverages, so I don't have to give you beer, wine, cider, and other malt beverages every time, and making sure that it's a secondary use. There's a couple of subtleties that I think are important here. There's been some testimony submitted in writing. I expect you may hear some of it more orally today. I want to provide some context so you can understand what portions of that may be appropriate for you to consider and which portions may not be appropriate for you to consider. First, this is a conditional use permit. It's separate and distinct from the farm stand application. Farm stand applications or a farm stand approval comes with an existing limitation that only a maximum of 25% can be incidental products. That's a separate limitation that's separate and distinct from the conditional use. Part of LUBA's opinion, the second assignment of error, made it clear that this is a conditional use permit that is a separate approval. So the secondary use that you're talking about here does not include necessarily that 25% limitation. Now, we have submitted to the record, I don't know if you had an opportunity to see it, a proposed condition where we piggyback on that to make sure that we stay under 50% with both incidental and the alcohol sales. But technically, under the terms of primary being 50% and secondary being less than 50%, you could use the entire farm sale operation and determine less than 50% of that can be alcohol sales. And then you could have the 25% would be part of that sale. So the condition being proposed by the applicant is actually far more restrictive than required by law, because we're talking about a separate conditional use permit, and is that conditional use which at 4.9% on top of that, mean the conditional use sales will be limited to about 24.9% that could be allowed under the terms of the law. So it's important to consider that distinction. It's also important to remember the last thing that staff area is Oregon. The LUBA opinion is very clear that one of the arguments that you see asserted in the written testimony is that the farm use on the particular property needs to be considered in relation to or conjunction with the sale of the products. That's simply not the law in Oregon. It's what the Friends would like the law to be. It is what they have argued in the Court of Appeals the law should be. That is the argument rejected by the Court of Appeals, rejected by LUBA, rejected by the Supreme Court, yet re-raised again in this proceeding to say you need to look at the farm production on this particular property to determine subordinate. That's not the law. The law has to be an Oregon-related product, and it goes so far as or a county adjoining you in another state. So you're talking about a very broad farm use, and there need be no connection between the use on the particular property and the products being sold. But here, there is a direct connection with all of the farming that's going on with the farm sales and everything else. But some of the alcohol will come from other producers. And one of the things that I think is kind of important to note was one of the things, a quote that LUBA referenced in its decision, which is that just because the marketing of Oregon farm products is so effective that travelers come here and buy them, does not mean that the products sold, the farm products sold to those travelers are not related to the farm use. Successful business does not mean that you can't sell farm products in your farm stand. LUBA specifically took the time to set up that quote and make sure that was clear. So the sole issue is primary versus secondary. The proposed condition we provided is that 24.9% of sales can, only 24.9% can be, let me phrase it better. No more than 49.9% can be incidental products as part of the 25% limitation imposed on the farm stand and the alcohol sales at 24.9%. So less than 49% has to be incidental products or alcohol sales so that there will be a guaranteed subordination of the sales as part of the proposed condition that we provided. Opposition cites two things in opposition to that. A few things I'd like to note. There's no real substantive argument in opposition to the sale. The sale's been approved. That's not before you. It's just a question of how much can be done to keep it secondary. The data cited comes from NACS, which I was very curious. What is NACS? When they talked about sales of $17,000 a month. Well, it turns out that's the National Association of Convenience Stores. This is not a Plaid Pantry. This is not a 7-Eleven. Data regarding Plaid Pantry and 7-Eleven sales is not applicable to this application. And if you are familiar with the locations, it sounds like at least Commissioner King is, one of them is in an area that is not immediately accessible from any significant road. You have to go out of your way to get to the farm stand. It's not going to be a convenience store. People aren't going to be stopping in to grab a 6-pack of beer on their way to the river. This is going to be a destination where people come to experience agritourism and come to experience the opportunity to see what Oregon produces and the glory of Oregon agriculture. And they have to go out of their way to get there. The second store is just outside the city of Yamhill. There will be some occasional traffic by that store. It's located on a highway. But realistically, the city of Yamhill is not going to support a convenience store level sales as cited by the opponents in their documents. There's just not the population base. There's not the traffic base. And I think if you went to 7-Eleven or Plaid Pantry and say, hey, I got a piece of property for you right here. You want to put it in a convenience store? They'd say your vehicle counts aren't even close. There's no way we could do that there. So citation to the National Association of Convenience Stores, I think, is very misleading. There's also a lot of reference to, well, this could become a bar or a tavern. And I'm going to give you a somewhat absurd example to kind of highlight why I think that argument's absurd. It's the rough canon saying you can't have a brew pub in a commercial area downtown because the processing of beer is the processing of an agricultural product and is therefore an agricultural activity. And all the farmers are going to take over all the commercial land and push that out. No one is proposing a pub here. No one is proposing a bar. This is alcohol sales associated with sale of farm products, Oregon products, and limited wine tasting. It's not a stop in and grab your booze on the way by. These are specific stores. They are cultivated to demonstrate what Oregon agriculture can do and how curated, caring farming can produce high quality farm products that people should experience. And that's what's being sold here. The opposition does promote limiting alcohol sales as a percentage of total farm sales. We agree. We propose that 49.9% total limitation in the condition that we propose to you. That makes perfect sense to us. There is an argument that hours of sale should be limited. I don't think there's a basis for that. If you're going to limit hours of sale, you will effectively, that's your choice. If you say to be subordinate, you can only operate in these hours. Well, then there shouldn't be a limitation on the amount. Because if the hours are what keeps you subordinate, then you should have unlimited sales during those hours. But if you have a limitation on sales, then if the store is open, then you should be able to sell. You still have that cap. So if you're selling disproportionate alcohol at different hours, you're going to bump into that cap faster. You don't need the hour limitation. There's no basis for it in the record. To impose an hour limitation in addition to a percentage limitation would be to propose what I think is frankly, potentially unconstitutional limitation, because there's no connection between the hours and being subordinate, because you could sell 3 times the store value or the store's total volume in those hours. Restricting the hours doesn't keep you secondary. It's just it's an artificial effort to provide an unnecessary restriction that doesn't result. An argument has been made as to the Panther Creek site, that the facility is a farm stand in which to sell. I'd like to point the board to its order 00514, which specifically addresses how to determine when a permit is vested and what the process is for making that determination. Nowhere in that process does it say that you can raise less than 24 hours before a hearing a question regarding vesting, and vesting is then considered by the board. The ordinance provides, or the board order provides, that a determination we made by the planning director whether substantial completion has been achieved at the time of a request for a development permit. The planning director, when a development permit is requested, makes that determination. That's not before you today. To the extent that you're curious or would like to know, I think the evidence is going to demonstrate that the permit is vested. If you look at the requirements, they want to know if there's been architectural, building, engineering, or consultants consulted. All of those have been consulted in this process. It asks whether it's been grading or leveling. None was really needed, but to the extent it's necessary, it's been done. Paving or access acquisition, access is available to the site. Testing, boring, drilling, installation of a well or water system. Water was already on site, not necessary. Septic tank plans and installation. There's been extensive consultation with the county sanitation department about the installation of the septic system. Inside the building, cabinets have been removed, paint's been done, and substantial consultation with retail layouts have been done. Have the actual permits to cap the drain in the shower been pulled? No. Has the stove been removed? No. But has substantial effort been done to convert the house from its prior use as a home to a retail outlet? Yes. Cabinets are removed, personal items are out. It's been essentially gutted and is ready to go. In essence, there's been at least $10,000 in time and expense invested in trying to get that approval done. And if you look at the vesting case law, there's a ratio that says from a 1 to 14 ratio is enough to vest. That would give up to $140,000 to complete the conversion of the mobile home on site into a farm store. That is well beyond what the actual budget would be. So I don't think there's going to be any question regarding vesting. And if you really push into it, part of what's been done to try and vest that approval is to try and maintain and protect the right to operate in that building, and that's defending these appeals. And if you throw in the cost of defending those appeals into this process, then you have a virtually unlimited budget to convert that facility, because it's just not that much needs to be done. But ample work has been performed to do that. The county has a process to make those determinations, and that process is available and will be followed. And so there's no need to consider that today. It's not before you today. And so it need not be considered. So unless there are questions, I'll just conclude by noting our pitch is farm stands are limited to 25% for incidental sales. That incidental sales could include alcohol. We would then say under the conditional use permit, the conditional use permit should be limited to 24.9% of the total farm store sales, coming to a total potential of 49.9% of incidental or alcohol sales as part of the farm stand. What's significant about that is that the conditional, we're only asking you for 24.9. We're being far more conservative than the law would allow. Happy to address any questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
I just had one question. This might be something direct to Ken. We were talking about the, in other words, how much skin in the game related to this vesting question, which I know is not before us, but the approval or the process will be followed. How germane is that to this discussion? Because we did receive a letter to that question.
Yeah, I don't think it's germane to this hearing. The only thing I'd point out is we still have conditions of approval that require that the wine sales be in an existing farm stand building. And so even if they're correct that permits haven't been pulled, they would need to be pulled, and the conversion would need to be done in order for us to sign off on the alcohol sales. And so OLCC comes to us, asks for the sign off for alcohol sales. We look and see whether the permits have been taken out to convert that building over to a farm stand to allow that. So there's already a condition in there that's actually a safeguard. And I do agree that we do have this process from 2000 that is substantial construction. I will say I've usually used it for dwellings. I haven't used it that often for other development, but he's correct that that's the process, that if there's a question about whether it's the use has been initiated or started, that's what we would do.
Because it mentions here that the deadline for substantial construction of the farm stand passed more than a year ago.
And I don't know if it has passed or not, because I don't know what they have done. And I think he's correct that, it's really not something for us to decide right here. Let's say that I look at all the evidence and decide that the farm stand has not been established, then they don't get to, they might have a land use approval to sell alcohol, but they won't be able to exercise that until they go back through the process and get the farm stand established. So either way, it's to me, it's just, did they get enough going to have their permit be vested, if you will? And I don't have that information in front of me, and that's not part of the application today.
Okay, thank you.
And I want to offer one comment in response to that, just to be clear. The condition of approval does require completion of the conversion within 1 year. What the law provides is that so long as you take substantial steps to accomplish that within that year, your right to complete that process is vested. And that's our position. We are not done. And no one is contending before you today that it is done, but we are contending, and I think we will demonstrate that what has been done is ample to vest the right to complete that process. And your staff's correct. If we don't, we're dead in the water. It's a catch-22. We can't sell. And so this approval would not ever be implemented unless and until a farm store is in place.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
No questions for me.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to ask for any testimony in support of the application. If you're online, raise your hand. There is no others in the audience. Seeing none, we're going to go to the appellant's case. I'm assuming that's Sid Friedman. If you want to come up, name and address, please.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Sid Friedman for Friends of Yamhill County, Post Office Box 1083, McMinnville. So while both hearings have nearly identical applications, they have different underlying facts. So I'm going to address them separately. In docket C1423, the subject tract is an approximately 5-acre parcel located about on Highway 47, about 1,500 feet from the Yamhill city limits. In addition to an existing farm stand, the subject tract includes a 3-bedroom bed and breakfast and has previously received an approval to hold agritourism events. The aerial photo in the record shows grapes planted on about 1/3 of an acre, which is about 6.5% of the total area. We can find no evidence in the record of any farm use, any other farm use on the subject property. The county's original approval allowed unlimited sales of any beer, cider, wine, or other malt beverage produced in Oregon for both on-site and off-site consumption, and had no limitation whatsoever on hours of operation. The commercial activity in conjunction with farm use could have become in close proximity to the city of Yamhill, a tavern or tap room selling Oregon beer and wine, or a market selling 6-packs to go of any beer produced in Oregon. I want to read the key phrases from LUBA's decision to remand, and I'm quoting. The county concluded that it was allowing a small amount of alcohol sales and tasting at an existing farm stand to complement the core meat and veggie sales as a low volume use. Intervenor, that would be the applicant, does not point to anything that ensures that those commercial activities remain subordinate or secondary to the pre-existing farm use and the farm stand use. As stated in the staff report, and I'm quoting, the county must develop findings or conditions that demonstrate the proposed alcohol sales will be secondary and subordinate to the pre-existing farm stand and the farm use occurring on the subject tract. LUBA understands the difference between a farm operation and a tract, or as the applicant seems to suggest, the entire state of Oregon. The aerial map included with the original application, as I said, shows grapes planted on about 1/3 of an acre, which is about 6.5% of the total 5-acre tract. While there may be other farm uses on other LLCs connected to Mr. Foti, we can find no evidence in the record of any other farm use on the subject tract or any other property that may be owned by this applicant, which is the Carlton Hub LLC. Without added conditions, the county cannot ensure that the alcohol sales will remain secondary to the farm use and to the farm stand use. As in all quasi-judicial land use proceedings, the burden of proof is on the applicant to prove with substantial evidence in the record that all approval criteria are met. Our written testimony details the substantial revenue from alcohol sales at markets and tap rooms. The applicant has submitted no evidence. There is no evidence, substantial or otherwise, regarding what the annual sales of farm products are at the farm stand. With respect to the farm use on the subject tract, based on evidence from the Oregon Wine Board that we submitted, the 1/3 acre of grapes on the subject tract would sell for less than $3,000. Even very modest alcohol sales would not be secondary and subordinate to the tract's farm use. For this reason, the application should be denied. If approved, strict conditions that limit volume of sales and hours of operation are needed. It's not an either or. Again, per the Luba opinion, the county concluded that it was allowing a small amount of alcohol sales and tasting as a low volume use. The applicant's proposed 25% limitation, coupled with the additional 25% allowance for incidental retails, would not ensure a small amount or low volume use, especially in light of the county's limited resources for enforcement. We propose a 5% of total farm stand sales for this farm stand in order to ensure a low volume, small amount. In addition, the hours must be limited. The county routinely limits the hours of operation at tasting rooms as commercial activities in conjunction with farm use. Not always, but often. The farm stands hours listed on this farm stand's website are 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Thursday through Saturday, and 10 to 5 Sunday to Tuesday. Alcohol sales outside those hours should not be allowed and would in fact strongly indicate that those sales are not secondary and subordinate to the farm stand or the farm use. So to summarize on this docket, the application should not be denied because it cannot be made secondary and subordinate to the very limited farm use on the subject tract. If approved, it should be conditioned as follows. Sale of alcoholic beverages should be limited to 5% of total annual sales of the farm stand, and hours of alcohol sales and services shall be limited to 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Thursday through Sunday and 10 to 5 on Sunday through Tuesday. Turning to docket C-1523, rather than repeat all my preceding testimony, I'll incorporate all of it that is not parcel specific into this testimony on docket C-15. As noted, the subject property is located in a rural area west of Carlton. The primary use of the property appears to be a 9-room boutique hotel or inn approved as a home occupation. That separate approval is currently the subject of a pending LUBA appeal. On March 30th, 2023, the county informed the applicant that he could not sell alcohol to his hotel guests. A few weeks later, the subject application was filed. As with the other application, the county's original approval allowed unlimited sales of any beer, cider, wine, or other malt beverage produced in Oregon for both on-site and off-site consumption with no limitation whatsoever on hours of operation. As conditioned by the county, the commercial use in conjunction with farm use could easily become a hotel bar, which may well be what the applicant intends. The county approval did include a condition that alcohol sales may only occur within the existing farm stand located on the subject tax lot. While this tax lot has a hotel, some farm use, and what we believe to be an expired approval for a farm stand, it does not have an existing farm stand. The vesting ordinance referred to by the applicant is a red herring. The farm stand approval was issued a year ago. It was valid for a year unless substantial construction of the use had taken place. But whether or not that has occurred and, whether it's substantial evidence or not, the applicant concedes they haven't pulled any of the permits, they haven't gotten the inspections. There is no existing farm stand. It is not possible for the alcohol sales and services to be subordinate or secondary to an existing farm stand that does not exist and has no sales. For these reasons, the application for C15 must be denied. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony. I'd be happy to provide any answer any questions. I'm just looking at my notes as to what the applicant said. I think I've addressed everything, but I think I have. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Sid.
Any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any other testimony in opposition? There's nobody in the audience. Is there anybody online? If there is, raise your virtual hand, please. Seeing none. Public agency report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There were no public agency reports in reference to this remand.
Thank you. Rebuttal by the applicant.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief and just highlight a few things. There was some language read from the opinion, and I want to read some of the language that was not read to you that I think is relevant and supports some of the positions taken by your staff in the staff report and states the correct state of the law in Oregon. First, at page 13, starting at line 7, nothing in ORS 215-283-2A, the statute that authorizes commercial uses in conjunction with farm use, requires that subject property be in farm use or that the commercial activity actively be directly related to a farm use occurring on the subject property or the immediate vicinity. That's a fairly clear statement of the law. You heard the argument today that it has to be related to the farm use on these particular parcels. That's not a correct statement of the law. That statement was rejected. In case there was any question, Luba went on to note at page 14, line 20. The legislative history of which we are aware demonstrates that the legislature considered and rejected language that would limit commercial activities on farmland by requiring that they relate to farming activities occurring on the subject property. And finally, just to make sure that there wasn't a question, Luba went on to note ORS 215-283-2A does not require a nexus between the products of farm use, and this is emphasized by Luba, on the subject property, end emphasis, and the proposed commercial activity. There's no nexus required. It is, does it sell and promote from the local area, and the local area is defined as Oregon. That's a definition that's not appreciated by Friends of Yamhill County, but that's the law. Similarly, the question before you is or will the alcohol sales be subordinate to the primary use? You heard your staff tell you primary use is 50% or more, secondary use is less than 50%. They propose 5%. 5% is not secondary. There's no law, there's no authority, nothing is provided for that except for this is what we want. The rule is laid out by the staff, and the staff report is primary use 50% or more. Secondary use is secondary use is less than 50%. The proposal that we have, and remember, that's 50% on this conditional use permit. So the proposal that we're making to you is that this conditional use permit be limited to 24.9%, which is less than half of what it could be. So we are proposing what we believe to be a very conservative proposal. And in terms of hours of operation, we talked about that. If you can sell more alcohol in 1 hour than you could sell in the entire farm stand in a day, hours of operation don't keep anything secondary. It's an arbitrary imposition. The market will dictate the hours of operation of the stores. You're not going to keep a store open late in rural Yamhill County. There's just not the traffic to justify it. It's not economically feasible. So conditions related to timing of operation are not there. If any were imposed, they should be 7 days a week from 9 to 7. That's not the operating hours of the store, but that's to be the flexibility that was there. But we don't believe that any time limitations are applicable. And frankly, I don't think that there's any constitutional justification for limiting the hours because it's 49% or less than 50 is secondary. The hour limitation does not speak to the standard. And so it has no basis being applied. Happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, thank you for your time and consideration.
Any questions?
None, thank you.
Can you speak to your sales a little bit? I mean, I don't need to know just ballpark. Yeah,
Well,
are you like, your primary sales being, I'm assuming, the driver now, which is mostly the meat and veggies that you're growing on your property, correct?
Mhm.
And then like, how much alcohol are we talking about? I don't think it really matters in this, but.
Well, at this stage, I mean, it has to stay under 25% if there's
Right.
any sales at all, because we don't have an approval, an active approval for sales outside of that incidental set of products. So right now it's limited to 25%. I apologize. I don't
That's
have
fine.
the total volume of sales, but we certainly don't have any problem submitting an accountant's statement each year that says total sales were this, alcohol sales were this.
Sure.
That would be something that we would have no problem with in terms of compliance.
For compliance and stipulations.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Just quick question. Is there two different vineyards then to total the 14 acres total? One is on this tract.
So
That's,
there's two different tracks here.
mhm.
And I will be honest that there's enough of the moving pieces in this thing that I don't have my fingers on every one, but there is, I believe, 15 acres associated with and adjacent to the Panther Creek site. And then there's an additional small acreage on the Yamhill site. And those things are not, the Yamhill site is not being aggregated into the acreage on the Panther Creek site.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to
Wait,
staff
wait, wait.
recommendations, please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Jody? Yeah.
Mark, I have one clarification question before you go. Sorry, Jody Galan, contract attorney for the county. Under your, I just want to get clarification on the percentage here, because your submitted letter says that 25%, you're requesting the condition be less than 25% of the total annual sales of the farm stand. But I thought I heard you say less than 25% of the total sales for the farm itself.
No, farm stand. I apologize. I don't, one of the rules in the law of the farm, we can't do that, no.
Okay, okay. I thought I misunderstood you. So, okay, I just wanted to get clarification for my own brain. Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Staff recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff recommends approval of the two farm stands proposed under docket C14-23 and C-15-23 based on the findings proposed by the applicant, indicating that the operation of the farm stands are secondary to the farm uses occurring on the applicant's farm operations. The new condition of approval will ensure that the sale of locally produced wine, beer, cider, and other malt beverages approved as a commercial activity in conjunction with farm use is a relatively small amount that are clearly a secondary use to the primary use on those properties. And I'm happy to read the proposed condition of approval, and that is condition number 16. The local alcohol sales at the farm stand allowed in condition number 3, which are not part of the farm stand's incidental sales, are limited to less than 24.9% of the total annual sales of the farm stand.
And the 16 would then become 17. Condition number 16 now says if you want to change any of the above conditions, you go through this process. So we would just move that condition.
Okay. All right. I'm going to close out this public hearing at 10:54, and that opens us up for deliberations.
Go ahead.
Commissioner King?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're here just to approve the small amount of sales. Sounds like the previous board has already okayed sales in general for this to happen, a conditional use permit. And I think this is in line with our county and the state priorities and to support farm stands and small farmers across the state. So have no reason to think otherwise.
Commissioner Sterrett?
Just a couple of points. I think it's understandable that when you live in the country, you want to preserve that, and you want to preserve anything that might, threaten the serenity and the quiet and the traffic and all that. And I get that. But what I see from friends time and time again is it seems like this arbitrary need to control other people's property. And that constitutes, I believe, we see more and more of that, and especially, and I'm just going to grandstand here for a second, more and more in the state of Oregon, where we take a look at someone's property. We see it in local government, we see it in state government, and unfortunately, some county governments are going along with this philosophy that we need to address the greater good over the basic property rights and ownership. When you start to put onerous conditions on property, that constitutes, in my mind, and I think if you were to look at the Fifth Amendment, that's a takings. Anything that would limit it. We understand zoning, we understand all of that, but it becomes more and more arbitrary, and I see friends doing it. It seems picky, arbitrary, and unnecessary, and it adds the cost of anybody trying to use their property when you've got hours and hours and hours of legal bills because you have to fight something which is a primary basic right, and that is the right to use your property. And so I would be in favor of approving this application.
Thank you. I'm just put my 2 cents in here as a farmer myself, and watching how the industries over the years go up and down, and the struggles with different commodities, whether it be hazelnuts a couple of years ago or right now grass seed, that I know farmers that have almost 2 years that are in storage right now because they can't sell it, and the ones that are selling it don't get paid. So it's even more important now to be able to diversify, and this is just one more tool that the farmers can use and promote all of the state of Oregon's agricultural commodities in a very positive manner to the rest of the world as, tourists come in. So I wouldn't make a motion of approval based on staff recommendations. Is there any further discussion?
I think I'd like to just back up on Commissioner Sterrett's opinion there that, if we were going to approve 5%, why wouldn't we not approve the 24.9? If it's in their rights to be able to do this, I find it hard to limit the way that they do business. So, and I do believe that farmers need to get creative in how to sell their product and get people to their farm stands or to their farms to sell their product from a consumer direct point of view.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Just a question for the applicant's attorney. Would you be willing to assist us with making the findings? And if you are willing to do that, would you want 2 or 3 weeks?
Absolutely happy to, and I can get us straight. We'll try to beat that deadline, but yeah,
Thank you, Jody.
Appreciate it.
my desk is winning of late.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye, Jody. Thank you.
We are now on to our announcements. Commissioner King.
A second, find my notes here.
Mr. Chair, just one announcement. Today was
Yes.
the day that there was supposed to be another set of findings that came back before the board for a previous decision. The applicant's attorney was out of the office, and so we've set that over for 1 additional week. So we expect those findings will be ready for the board next week, right?
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
I met with Sheriff Elliott yesterday. We talked about lots of things. One of the things that I think is highlighting and that I'd like to have a discussion about soon here or is in talking to other commissioners, how they write DUI tickets. They have ordinances. They write through county ordinances instead of through the state. Sam, our sheriff, has told me that it actually costs us money to write a DUI instead of being able to have that at least break even from the work that's due. And so that's a workaround that they have. And I would love to be able to talk about that here, to be able to bring some of that money back into our sheriff's department or office rather. And they do that along with everything from parking tickets in their county parks all the way through to DUIs. So I think it is something that I would love to be able to talk about here. In that same spirit, I met with Rep. Elmer to discuss funding streams for our sheriff's office and just in general other offices, but really pushing for that funding for our radio towers, our radio system, and working every angle that I can. Rep. Elmer and I have committed to meeting regularly to talk about ways on how we can run down those opportunities. I met at our YCOM board meeting. We are about to launch a pilot program. We'll be the first in the state for a text to 911. I think somewhere in the next month or so, I think is the projected. And then also another program where they're creating a little bit more of a suite for first responders and our sheriffs and our police departments to be able to access a lot of the records all in one area rather than right now they're having to log into 3 or 4 different systems and softwares. Met with Matt Water and Light, or took a tour with most of the new commissioners of the Mac Water and Light Commission and a couple of new city councilors, Mac Fire, several others. What a cool form of government I think that is. You know, they are cash flowing, they have money in the bank, debt free, and really almost 100 years worth of that vision coming to be able to support not only today, but future generations, which I think is great. I met with newly appointed Representative Sue Reiki Smith. We talked about most of the things that I've been working on, but when she was appointed only a couple weeks before the last bit of the session, I pressed hard on her to vote no for the transportation package because it didn't have the 50-30-20 split. And so we talked about mostly the importance of that as they come up to the new session. Here, floor hearings next week, Monday, is that right? So hoping to be at that. I met with Attorney General's office as well and understanding the position on continuing as the sanctuary state and just really what the Attorney General is doing to enforce those laws. Because right now, I think there's a big confusion between ICE and local police departments and or sheriff's offices. And our sheriff's office, for example, is kind of taking the brunt of that, which I don't think is right. So, and really where the teeth is into our sanctuary laws and what they're doing to support those. The three of us took our tour of Empower yesterday, which was, I think, really incredible. I left hungry and needing a sweet treat, but it smelled so good in there. They make energy bars, if you don't know what that is. City county dinner last night was great, and I've been communicating with my liaison mayors and sitting down and talking about having town halls together throughout the rest of the year and into the first part of next. So looking forward to those.
Just, can you give us a little more information on your meeting with the Attorney General and the sanctuary laws? Where a little bit more?
It was the office, his office, and What do you want to know?
Did they call you in or did you call them, or is there something we should be concerned about?
Not yet. No, I called them just to try to have that focus on what is the clarity for what is working, the offices or the departments working together, or just really what it is, what the Attorney General's role in this is, because I think we're seeing a lot of activity here, and a lot of our community members are afraid. And I think that this doesn't lie on our sheriff's department. I think it really lies at the state and to what it is they're doing. If we're going to have the laws, then how are they being enforced? Shocker there.
Is
I
there?
got very little answers. So if
Oh.
that's what you're looking for.
Well, it's just confusing because it was, in other words, Oregon is, I believe in 1987, or the first sanctuary state.
Mhm.
So based on that, the federal government is saying to us, not only are we going to take a hit on federal funding
Mhm.
for virtually all of our
Yes.
services and our programs, but our local law enforcement, based on Oregon sanctuary law, cannot work with federal immigration.
Mhm.
So the federal government cracking down on that, and then also the target is now on sanctuary counties and sanctuary cities. So did the Attorney General signal anything that there would be any willingness, apparently not, from what the governor is saying, movement away from that hard line so that we don't wind up with that going on?
Yes, and that was my frustration, was if we're going to be we are currently losing funding for our mandated services, what is it that you're doing? And again, shocker, very little answer. It was the office, not the Attorney General. So
So you didn't talk to the Attorney General?
no, I said his office.
Oh, you talked to his office. Oh, because, so you want us to pull back on being a sanctuary state?
No, I want it to be enforced.
So in other
If we
words,
have laws, then are we enforcing? What are you doing to enforce them? They're
I'm
not. We're not being enforced.
not understanding. We're not.
Do we have a specific issue here that stem this, that you're going to asking the Office of the Attorney General to enforce something that we're doing wrong?
Well, I mean, I think, no, not the county, not our sheriff's department, not our police departments. I've said over and over again that they are not in cooperation with ICE, but really, what is it that the state is doing? I mean, my friend was detained and deported, right? And didn't have the reason. So why, if this is a sanctuary state, then why was he?
So in other words, the state of Oregon did not push back hard enough on ICE to keep.
A community member, a business owner, somebody who's been here for 30 plus years.
So you want more pushback on ICE?
Just exactly. What is actually happening? If we're losing funding here. So I don't think that the governor or anything can change that law, but it should be enforced. And that's at the Attorney General.
I'm really confused.
I am too, and I guess I want to make sure that we're delineating if you're going on behalf of the county, but really it's a state issue that you have concerns
Going on
with.
behalf of me.
Okay,
not-
I just want to be clear about that, because that's where the confusion for me is least coming in, because I haven't heard of any of this stuff, and it would concern me if you are going there representing Yamhill County, because that's definitely not the will of the board.
No, believe me, everywhere I go, this is me.
Okay.
And Bubba King.
Okay. All right. So Commissioner Johnston and I were able to, and former Commissioner Bershauer were able to take part in a program at Coffee Creek Correctional Facility for the women who are incarcerated, the mothers and the grandmothers, so that they can meet with their children and spend some time playing with them, touching them, holding them, and let Commissioner Johnston fill you in a little bit more on that. It was a very emotional day, but also it was very encouraging to see what's being done to help those women with their future job prospects. The training is unbelievable.
The fire program was amazing. Just that aspect of it alone, where they allow, if you qualify, they allow them to go out and fight fires, and they actually are being recruited top of the list as groups to go out and fight fires now from Coffee Creek. So that was phenomenal to me, besides the hair cutting training and all that other stuff.
And they actually request the women firefighters because they really do such a good job.
Yeah, hard workers.
And also they have an HVAC program, so they come out with certifications. I mean, they come out with some great certifications. They also really work on reuniting families and making sure that they have an incentive to get back out and stay out. So it's very emotional.
So was it, when you call the DMV, is it the call center at Coffee Creek that those ladies are operating? Is that the first, or does it transition after that call?
Well, I can remember going into the women's prison in Salem and actually seeing the DMV office, which was a very coveted job. It was $1 an hour, and when they came out, they wound up going right into the DMV offices. But these women really, so they, in other words, yes, when you call the call center, you're going to these women who, that's a coveted job.
Mhm.
And then when they get out, they're ready to go and work in DMV. And it's wonderful to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got to do that. Also, the sheriff's barbecue with the families. We had 14 babies in 18 months,
Yeah,
and
and-
2 on one day in the same hospital. So it's population explosion over at
We were
the,
trying to think if there was a power outage like
Yeah.
18 months ago. or
right,
not.
exactly. Anyway, so kudos to the sheriff and to the chaplain, Leo Keelan, who really does work with the families and helps them with some very significant issues. There's shift work, there's the danger, there's the challenges to marriages and families. And it was wonderful to see him there. So we got to do that. I also, this is the feel-good section right now. What I wanted to call out is, if you remember a while ago, we had some folks who were taking our Chemeketa early education program, and they were coming up against some issues getting their funding. And I know our economic director, development director, Joy Goodrum, worked with Chemeketa, get that thing sorted out. But I had mentioned that we'd put some people in touch with the mission. Well, this month, their fundraising letter called out that particular family. They were living in the car. They had an 8-month-old baby. And here, of course, they changed their names. But they talked about what they were able to do and help them get back on their feet. So these stories you get from the mission, they're legit.
Mhm.
And they're very, and basically, we're here to help people, and they do a wonderful job. Also been talking a lot about supporting foster families, and Reach Northwest is working on expanding their foster program, retention program. So I've been helping with that. The other thing is, we had our Adult Recovery Court policy meeting, talked more about getting the folks who are in the recovery program into employment earlier. And that kind of dovetails with what we saw yesterday at Empower and how they're looking for folks to work. They're really, well-paying jobs. So we are going to be connecting the folks there and some of our recovery courts and our THRS and all of that with the jobs and the job training and work source. You're going to be going to that. Talk a little bit about, let's see. Oh, there's a litigated case right now regarding the Oregon's supposed non-compliance with the National Voter Registration Act, specifically the removing ineligible voters. So that is being litigated. Our clerk is on top of that. Talked to Ken Friday about reducing some of the costs associated with the hazardous household waste event. We talked about what we could do there. Going back to some of the $15 billion we're hearing that our governor is saying the state is losing. Well, one of the good things that's come out about this is that the feds have been cracking down on Medicaid cheats and people abusing the food stamp SNAP system. So now the state of Oregon, recognizing that they're going to be on the hook for some of this, has installed what they're calling watchdogs to enforce the food stamp error rate. Because now that they held their feet to the fire, and we are one of the highest states for food stamp error and fraud, they now have sort of put the watchdog on that, and they're going to be cracking down on that. So it's interesting to see what happens when they feel the heat. They kind of see the light. So good stuff happening there.
All right. Commissioner Stewart updated on the TACE event. YCSO barbecue, one thing I'd like to add to that is how our sheriff not only cares about the mental health of our officers, but it goes into also their families and the support system that he's putting up to really engage with those families from the very get-go when they're sworn in, from handing them the book. It's just phenomenal what Sam does for that sheriff's department. We had a Sheridan City Council meeting. They did a bylaw. They have a bylaw review committee for the AOC. The city of Sheridan finalized their logo selection, the colors, and what was going to go on what vehicle. I thought that was kind of cool because last meeting they were still trying to figure that out. They approved of hiring an assistant city manager and finance director that, I learned this last night at the city county dinner. I had part of my information, but they must have had a meeting afterwards. So Preston, who used to, I think, work at Lafayette, he was their city manager out there. He's their temp through, I think, COG. Well, it sounds like they're hiring Preston full-time now.
2 years.
2 years. They're going to hire a assistant city manager, finance director. And so over the next 2 years before Preston retires, again, it sounds like, they'll then, whoever they onboard for the assistant city manager will then interview for the manager position. So that sounds like a pretty good direction for those guys to go. On the 19th, we had Precision Analytical Tour, which was part of that Made in Mac that they're doing with MEDP and the mayor's office. Super cool. I don't know if you've ever been out there, but a lot of chemists. A lot of jobs to be had out there. They're always hiring. You do have to have a little bit of background in chemistry, but they're willing to do a lot of on-site training also. So great place out there. It was a good tour. Dundee City Council meeting, I went to that. They're submitting their plan to address the deficiencies of their 2023-24 budget that they had. Plus, it sounds like as they progress through the next year's budgets, they're also going to have to go through the same process just because of those same deficiencies that carried over from the same person that was doing them. But at least they're on top of it. The cool part was, which we heard for the update from the Dundee City Councilor at the Carlton City Dinner, was their fire department got their rating lowered, which is good, from a 4 to a 3. And now everybody within the city limits of Dundee, when their insurance rates come due, they can take that to their insurance adjuster and they should get lower rates because of that rating. So I think that's huge for that area. They had set up a new water committee. They're discussing future water needs, whether they're Newburgh or if they're going to start leaning towards McMinnville. So they've opened up the conversations with McMinnville. I think that's a fantastic direction. We talked about the Empower Tour yesterday. Towards the end, got really interesting. Besides the whole candy making and the candy bars coming off of there, with all the automation and the packaging, was just phenomenal to see. Can't take pictures of it. But very awesome. I mean, if you ever end up getting an opportunity to take a tour out there, it's definitely well worth it. But towards the end, when we were talking about the meetings that these guys do for outreach and the jobs available out there, and we're talking decent paying jobs, but with benefits. So, that's definitely a plus. Not a lot of restrictions, and they do every Tuesday and Thursday a kind of an overview of what the job entails at WorkSource. I think it's WorkSource Oregon, or is it? And just kind of as a pre-onboarding, be like, if you're interested, this is what to expect when you are going to work for Empower. So I think it's a great thing. We're actually Joy's going to put together a meeting for us to where we can actually go watch one of
Didn't you
these.
say over 300 jobs in the next year and a half?
So right now, I think he said 24 job openings. And then by next year, when the next line comes on, they'll need, or actually by October, they're going to open up to 120 jobs. That's going to open up.
And then in the next 18 months. So, yeah, they're almost doubling their workforce.
Yeah, they're in massive need for help out there, and they're great paying, great benefit jobs for that level of entry into the workforce. So great. Back to the city county dinner last night. I do have seems like every 6 months I have to do like a public apology, but it's okay. So I get up there and I get rolling with my updates for the county, and I try being a smart ass, and I forget to list off who was there. So I just want to make sure that it doesn't go unnoticed that our county administrator was there, our deputy county administrator was there, Kevin, and our DA, Kate Lynch, was also there. So along with us 3 commissioners. So I do appreciate, the support that you guys take out of your day in the evenings and come to support the county. For me, it shows well, because it just, when you can show up in numbers, it shows that you respect that city that's putting on that dinner for the numbers that you can bring from your own city or county. So I just appreciate it, and thank you guys, and thank you, Kate. And I forgot to, mention you guys when I gave the update.
Did have a great joke though, so it was.
Yeah. I'm not going to repeat that in public. That was meant for private, because Hillary will kill me otherwise. Parkway Committee this morning, update on where we're at with the shortfall in the ODOT funding. I'm not even going to repeat what they said, because it's going to change 50 times till we get to when they actually get together. Same progress on the bypass. They're still working on the 219 overpass at Winooski's interchange there. Everybody, when you drive by, you can see what's going on there. They're progressing. Doesn't seem to be any concern for any delays. Everything's on track. And then tonight's Fair Board meeting, and this afternoon we're going to have a Hampton tour at 1:30, which I'm really looking forward to. And that's all I got. I'm going to close her out at